Welcome to the Rogue Reader podcast. My name is James, and I love reading Star Wars books.
And my name's Priscilla. I am the wife of Rogue Reader host.
Yes. And today, first thing, Priscilla, is my Star Wars book collection. It's adult books I focus on. I do read young adult novels too, but in terms of my wanting to have all of them, I focus on the adult novels. I can say my collection is 99% complete. There are a couple things I do not have. So, I don't have the zombie Star Wars novels, Death Troopers, I forget what's called, or Red Harvest, because I have absolutely zero interest in zombie. Such interest that I didn't even get those books. I don't have a couple Clone Wars novels that are based on the 3D series, because they came out around the time before Disney acquired it and when that Clone Wars show was changing continuity and it was kind of throwing things in the air. So I don't have two or three of those. I probably should get those eventually. The last category of Star Wars books I don't have are the movie novelizations. So that's because I would rather watch it than read it.
Especially if you already know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you're just reading is like your brain's already jumping ahead.
Yeah, so there is a couple exceptions to that, and that's the one I want to talk about today, and that's the Revenge of the Sith novelization by Matthew Stover. This is what it looks like, if you want to see.
So you know what? As someone who reads a lot of manga that turn into anime adaptations, I can see the appeal of wanting to have a physical book. I want to read it. And I can see that.
Well, let me tell you the story why I have this.
Oh, there's a story.
There's a story.
Ooh,
so,
a story for a story.
When I was, when this Revenge of the Sith is turning 20 years old in May.
That's crazy.
So I would have been 12 when it came out.
I was 10.
10, yeah. And I was super introverted. I had a fear of going out, of seeing people. All I did every day until my sophomore year of high school was just go to school, come home, and play video games. That's it. But I was desperate to see Revenge of the Sith because it's the last. Right at the time, it was the last Star Wars movie, and it was the connecting one. But I had such a big fear of going to the movie theater that I did not want to see it that way. Beforehand, with Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, I just waited till the VHS came out, and then I would watch that, and I was okay with that. But because this was the final one, I really wanted to know what it was. So I experienced the story of Revenge of the Sith 3 times before actually seeing the movie. The first was this novel. The novelization came out a month before the movie.
That's crazy. They would just release that before the movie.
Well, even crazier is I also experienced it again through the Lego Star Wars video game, which had a whole Revenge of the Sith section that also came out before the movie.
What?
And then the Revenge of the Sith PS2 game, which had clips from the movie in it. I played those 2 games and I read the book before I ever saw the movie. So I experienced the movie plot those times before I even got to see it.
That's blowing my mind that they would reveal plots of the entire, what is it, episode 3?
Yeah.
And other formats than the actual movie. That's crazy.
Well, I guess they figured we already know ultimately what's going to happen because they were prequels. But yeah,
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
I will say the 2 games, Padme is not in them at all. So the whole, it's kind of weird. Anakin is just kind of good, and then all of a sudden he's just evil, and there's no really explanation as to why.
Maybe that's why they really want to save that for the
Except
movie.
the Lego game, you just see her briefly in a cutscene where she's pregnant and she just has a little brick in front of her to be her belly. It's kind of funny. But so anyways, so this was the way I experienced Revenge of the Sith originally. It was the novelization by Matthew Stover. He has written a couple other Star Wars books, one in the New Jedi Order series, Luke Skywalker in the Shadows of Mindor, the Mace Windu novel Shatterpoint, which is really good, another one of my favorites. And he wrote this one, which it's very highly regarded in the Star Wars community. I always see this novelization brought up. And I haven't read it since I first got it 20 years ago. So I just reread it for the first time in 20 years. And now I can see what all the fuss is about, because this is easily probably among the top best Star Wars books, even though it's a novelization. What makes it good is that it does not follow the script line by line. It's not a transfer.
Thinking.
He talks about in interviews how he had liberty. He asked George Lucas, do I need to follow the script exactly? What do I do? And George Lucas told him, do whatever you want, just make it good.
Oh,
so that's what he decided to do. So it doesn't follow the line, like the gist is there, and sometimes the lines are there, but otherwise it's kind of, it does its own thing. And I'm just gonna say it right now, it's so good that it makes it feel like this was the original novel, as if it was a novel first, and the movie was the poor book adaptation of the movie.
That says a lot.
I'm not going to recap the plot like I usually do because it's Revenge of the Sith. It's still the same plot. But I am going to just talk about the things that stood out to me that are different and that why I liked it so much. First off, it has a different opening crawl than the movie. So
what do you mean? It's still a crawl though, right?
the text that comes out, on the screen. So the original is like, it's like war, there's heroes and villains on both sides. Evil is everywhere, that kind of thing. Let me just read the opening crawl in the novel because it kind of sets the tone, I think, for the whole book and how he writes. What makes this book good too is how he writes. Usually when I say a book is written well, I just mean like it's easy to understand. There's no grammatical errors. But Matthew Stover has like a certain way of writing it that's interesting in itself. It's almost like he cuts in as the narrator and like says these insightful things. All right, so this is the opening crawl to the novel. This story happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It is already over. Nothing can be done to change it. It is a story of love and loss, brotherhood and betrayal, courage and sacrifice, and the death of dreams. It is a story of the blurred line between our best and our worst. It is the story of an end of an age. A strange thing about stories. Though this all happened so long ago and so far away that words cannot describe the time or distance, it is also happening right now, right here. It is happening as you read these words. This is how 25 millennia come to a close. Corruption and treachery have crushed 1,000 years of peace. This is not just the end of a republic. Night is falling on civilization itself. This is the twilight of the Jedi. The end starts now.
That's very poetic.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to the narrations, like, for example, when we recently watched Ahsoka's arc in Clone Wars. And just remembering like how those crawls were, it's literally a recap, and like it tells you like the place it's happening, characters, the politics, just the bits and pieces of what you need to know like moving forward in the story. But here it's like telling you exactly what's going on, and it in his own words, exactly what you said. So that's really nice.
And that's kind of, the whole book kind of has that feel, which is what makes it good. I'm just going to kind of go through, and like I said, I'm just going to talk about the points that just stood out to me about this novel. So the intro of the book already has a lot already. We get like a view from civilians. It's the movie starts with Grievous capturing Palpatine, and we see that that's being broadcast everywhere. And people are watching it like on their HoloNet, like TVs or whatever it is. And we know that we're told that adults are already kind of suspicious of the Jedi, some of them, because there's stories of some of them falling to the dark side, which is kind of like called back to some of the comics and things around the time. The main thing is Anakin and Obi-Wan are heroes, and they're heroes to children specifically everywhere. Like, they're the ones that are like, their parents will tell them like, everything's going to be okay. Anakin and Obi-Wan are there. They're going to settle things.
Oh, no.
Their names are known. They're like absolute heroes. And so they know everything's going to be all right when Anakin and Obi-Wan enter to like go rescue the Chancellor. And the author talks about how there are school ground, not fights, but arguments where kids argue with each other. Who do you think would win in a fight, Obi-Wan or Anakin? And the thing that they always come to an agreement on is at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because they would never fight each other.
Oh, I was going to legit say it was like, no matter what, even before probably if I were to like know the ending, Obi-Wan, because he's just more wise.
The author does this really cool thing too, where every time he introduces a character, he he kind of like steps in almost as himself and like describes it. Like you'll have like Anakin is zooming in on the ship and stuff, and then the text will take a pause and it'll go, "This is Anakin Skywalker. He is this. He thinks about this. He
very
fears this."
Very elementary way of writing, kind of way.
It's maybe it sounds elementary the way I'm describing it, but it's not when you're reading it. It sounds very like insightful when you're reading it. So this is one of the things he introduces with Anakin that this always stuck with me. This is one of the like two things I remember from this book after 20 years. He talks about how when Anakin became a Jedi and was first learning how to train when he was really young, he went on this mission with Obi-Wan, and they went to this dead star. And this event kind of traumatized Anakin because he was asking Obi-Wan, his mind was blown. He was like, how can stars die? And Obi-Wan tells Anakin, everything dies, Anakin, eventually. And that has always stuck with him. He's always remembered that, like, everything dies. And the author kind of has this metaphoric dragon that lives in Anakin. And this dragon whispers to him all the time, all things die, Anakin. And he has like nightmares about it all the time. And obviously this is something that's like compounded by, you know, the death of his mother and all kinds of other stuff. It's just this childhood, his childhood innocence is just kind of was ruined by this mission, and it's always stuck with him.
They start off the story with this?
This is in the beginning of the book. It's one of the things I think the author talks about the Anakin himself, like about how he feels about things and stuff. He recants this like mission Anakin went on. And it happens a little bit later in the book, but there's a scene later in the book where Palpatine says something to Anakin, and Anakin has this sense of deja vu, like he's had this conversation before. And it's almost hinting that Palpatine may be in Anakin's dreams. Like Palpatine may be influencing Anakin's dreams all these years.
So he's like Freddy Krueger?
Like a Sith Freddy Krueger, yeah. But it could be Palpatine that's bringing out this like kind of dragon of fear in Anakin every night, making him have nightmares about death. Like this could be part of the manipulation, which I think is interesting because I think it, in a weird way, it kind of fits with how they had Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker when Kylo Ren is visiting him, and Palpatine's like, I have been every voice you have ever heard, and he talks in like Snoke's voice and Vader's voice and stuff. So I think that's cool. We get to see inside Count Dooku what he's thinking during this whole thing. Because, you know, Anakin kills Count Dooku, but we get to see Count Dooku's perspective on what he thinks is supposed to happen. He thinks that he is supposed to be captured by Obi-Wan and Anakin. That they're not supposed to kill him. And eventually, when, like, you know, Palpatine and Sidious like takes over, like Dooku is gonna be the one to train any surviving Jedi left and kind of create a Sith army. That's what he thinks is supposed to happen. If you were a stupid kid like me and you didn't know that Palpatine was Darth Sidious, which I didn't, I thought they were two different people. You get in the book, you get the reveal right away. Like Dooku is talking to Sidious, and then it kind of, they have this like, if it was filmed, it would be this camera pan moment where it pans over to the chair he's talking to, and you see like Palpatine like locked up, ready to be rescued by Anakin. Like that's like the reveal that he is Darth Sidious in the book, essentially.
Okay. For me personally, I remember when I did watch the movies, and I already gave away like the age I was like young. I think even then I had that hint of like movie storytelling. It's always the ones that you don't seem to believe that they're evil kind of thing, or truly that evil, or they're going to be that life-altering entity, you know? So yeah, like for me, it's interesting they add the interactions of like how they reveal based off the novelization. So you had no idea?
No. And it's even like, I think it's even crazier for me because I had the visual dictionaries as a kid, so I knew the Emperor was Palpatine. I knew Palpatine became the Emperor, but I still, for some reason, thought Darth Sidious was someone else, and Palpatine was going to be revealed to also be evil, and he was going to kill Darth Sidious. And like,
no, he was.
I made it way too complex. He was just the same character. But
our kid minds always mess with us in that way.
So just another example of kind of how the author writes. There's a scene where Count Dooku is looking at Obi-Wan and Anakin and Palpatine, like when they first all meet and they're about to have their lightsaber duel, and he describes Dooku kind of describes how he sees them, and this is just kind of another thing I think just is written well in the book. He says, Kenobi was a luminous, transparent being, a window onto a sunlight meadow of the Force. Skywalker was a storm cloud, flickering with dangerous lightning, building the rotation that threatens a tornado. And then there was Palpatine, of course. He was beyond power. He showed nothing of what might be within. Though seen with the eyes of the dark side itself, Palpatine was an event horizon. Beneath his entirely ordinary surface was absolute perfect nothingness. Darkness beyond darkness, a black hole of the Force. So this is how Palpatine sees them when he's looking at them. And I think it's interesting, and also it's like, even though Count Dooku is a Sith and he knows his master is a Sith, he still cannot sense the dark side in him. That's how good Palpatine is at just covering it all up and like preventing the Jedi from sensing that. There's a little line in here that's always bugged me. Because I played the video game before I saw the movie, there's actually a little bit of an extended scene in the lightsaber fight with Dooku and Obi-Wan Anakin that is cut in the movie. And I've always noticed it because I played the video game, right before they're about to lightsaber duel, they all like ignite their sabers. And then in the video game, the clip goes on a little bit and Dooku says a line. He's like, just because there are two of you, do not presume you have the advantage. And it's in the book here too. The reason I bring it up is because in the movie, when they ignite their lightsabers, it just immediately cuts to them fighting. And because I played the game, it was a disconnect in my brain. I was like, wait a minute, there's supposed to be another line there. But they ended up cutting it in the actual movie. But I got to see it in another medium somewhere else first, which is just a little thing that I think is interesting, but it's also something that I've just noticed every time I rewatch the movie because of this. During the lightsaber fight itself between Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Dooku, it's described that they trick Dooku. Like, he has the upper hand for most of the fight, and Dooku's thinking how easy it is. And then Anakin and Obi-Wan pull a switcheroo, and it turns out they've been faking how bad they are. And all of a sudden, they just start revealing how masterful and how much they've trained since they last met. And Dooku is suddenly, like, overwhelmed at the end. So he's overconfident, but Obi-Wan and Anakin, they also strategically downplay their saber skills for a good part of the fight just to kind of get him overconfident and throw him off. And then all of a sudden, they're like, oh, actually, I know how to do this. And then they start, like...
To be clear, now that I'm thinking about it, I know he wrote a lot of the dialogue his way and everything and what they're thinking. But in terms of like when you see it replicated from the novelization to on screen, a lot of like their actions, does it match what you think it could be?
When he does describe actions, actually they're different. The thing is, when it comes to the actions, he doesn't describe the actions too much. And the author even says in some interviews, this book is kind of like a companion piece, and he doesn't want to describe the actions as much because he thinks the movie will do that better. So he focuses more on what they're feeling and seeing.
Gotcha.
Whenever the actions do come up, though, sometimes he does things that are a little different. Something like this is more like internal. So it could still be how it goes in the film, but you wouldn't see it. Like, there's no way to see and be like, oh yeah, Obi-Wan and Anakin are clearly like pretending to do something else here, and then they switch here, because it's all within their minds, and it's all within how Dooku's thinking as he's fighting them, essentially. So I think one of the big things is that when Anakin kills Count Dooku, and he has like the sabers crossed against him, Dooku that's the moment he realizes, like, shit, it was never going to be me. It was supposed to be Anakin this whole time. I've been the bait for him this whole time. What makes the scene stand out is that when Anakin, the author makes it clear that when Palpatine tells Anakin, do it, kill him, this is the first time that Anakin has ever had permission to murder someone. Like, he's murdered people before. He's slayed like the Tuskens and stuff. The distinction is that he did that in like a fit of anger and stuff like that. Now, like, he's here, he's calm, he is himself, he's not like feeling extra anger or anything. And now his friend and technically leader of the Republic is telling him, it's okay, Anakin, you can cut this guy's head off. And he gives Anakin permission to do that. And Anakin realizes that he's been looking for permission to do that. So this is the first time he kind of gets that, and it's from Palpatine, the first of many to come.
I know this is going to sound like super like off topic, but I just listened to a true crime story of this therapist who actually prescribed murder for her patient. But it's a little bit more twisted than that. It's essentially just her like using this guy's crush on her to like murder her, I believe, like husband or soon to be ex-husband, so she can reap the benefits and they could like run away together. But all it was is just her like trying to pin the murder on him.
Makes me think of a skit where Palpatine has to get a new job after like the Emperor's overthrown, and one of the jobs he gets is like a psychiatrist. And then the guy's like, I just have so much anger towards my father. And Palpatine's like, good, act on your anger.
Wait, and this is a real thing?
This is a skit on YouTube. And then like you see like a newspaper clipping like man murders whole family and like stuff. It's funny, but it's like, yeah.
yeah, it's all connected. And I was just saying exactly just that I can see how mentally that can work on someone, because he's easily manipulated, because he's in such a randomly low point of his life in this part of the series, you know what I mean? And probably maybe it also connects with like this whole like death scenario of like everyone dies.
And Palpatine can read Anakin and knows what Anakin wants, so he can feed that to him, you know.
Oh, okay, now that's hitting me too. So not only can he like tell him in his thoughts like what to do, he knows what he's thinking in the moment.
He can use the Force, and you know he can kind of he knows what Anakin wants.
Ooh,
and,
that's true.
You know, Anakin has like these sabers over Dooku's head, and I'm sure Anakin's thinking like, God, everything this guy has done, I really wish I could just kill this guy, but I know I can't.
But he doesn't want to.
And then all of a sudden, Palpatine is like, do it, Anakin, murder him, and it's like
a non-Jedi.
Yeah,
and the difference in like murdering and like what as Jedi they like kill someone just out of defense. Here he's just like
Dooku's arms are cut off. He's defenseless. He can't do anything anymore. Exactly. Anakin can capture him, no problem, but he doesn't. He chooses to kill.
And they would capture him ethically, like they just wouldn't just kill to kill. Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. Anakin
struggles with way more guilt here too after killing Dooku than it's shown in the movie. In the movie, he's just like, I shouldn't have done that. But like in the book, he's like really like he's almost like I think like panicky over the fact that he did it. So he has a way more bigger reaction. When after they do the whole thing where they crash the ship into Coruscant and they get out and they go to like meet, and Obi-Wan tells Anakin, go have your day with the politicians and the press. We see Obi-Wan's side as he leaves, which we don't get to see in the movie. And he and Mace are talking about how they almost found Darth Sidious. And this is like a reference to the novel Labyrinth of Evil, which is a direct prequel to Revenge of the Sith. And in that novel, they're able to actually almost track down where Darth Sidious has been hiding, and they find his hideout in Coruscant, and they're able to see that his hideout has an entrance into the main Republic building where all the politicians are. So they know, one, they were very close to finding him, and two, they now know that he is like somewhere in the Senate, a politician, somebody. They know that he has infiltrated, the Republic. They just don't know who it is. The reason, and you might be thinking like, why haven't they put together that it's Palpatine? But they're convinced that whoever it is manipulating Palpatine.
Which is fair. That's something I would think too. Like it's too obvious. Maybe it would be the Chancellor, and there's no way he would like.
Mace says the same thing. He's like, why would it be Palpatine? Palpatine already controls everything.
Yeah. Why hasn't he done anything?
Yeah.
Now?
They're like, it's one of the senators that are with him. Maybe it's one of his royal guards under the helmet. Like, who knows? It's one of these people is Sidious. We need to find out who it is. And it kind of shows why Palpatine is also rushing things at this point to get to the climax, because he also knows he's being close to being caught. So he has to finish his plan quickly.
Also, a personal note, and this is from someone who hasn't read it yet and hasn't seen the movies in a while. It's also fair to say they don't also want to jump into that conclusion because the Jedi already has like this magnifying glass, I guess, of like, are they really good people? And yet now they're questioning the person in charge.
Yeah, there's already suspicion.
Politics, yeah. So I can see they're trying to be very careful. And unfortunately, though, because of how dark things are going to get, like you can't blame them either for like jumping to that conclusion, but they have to be careful.
Yeah, I think that's a whole other conversation of how much at fault they were for things and how much they let things happen. But that's a whole other conversation.
I saw that Clone Wars with the Arc of Ahsoka. That one was rough to watch.
Yeah. Another little interesting difference is when Padme tells Anakin that she has like news, something important to tell him. Anakin immediately is like, I can sense there's someone else. There's someone between us. And he starts getting like jealous like right away.
Ew. Mm-mm.
And then she has to tell him like, no, it's like, I'm pregnant. Like you're sensing like the baby. Like that's the other person. Like, so they already kind of play up how jealous Anakin can be like right off the bat. When Padme asks Anakin about they should maybe tell Obi-Wan, maybe he can help them. Anakin doesn't want to because he says Obi-Wan's on the council and they have not made him a master yet. And he's like, Obi-Wan must know like why they haven't made him a master and stuff, but he hasn't told him anything. So he's kind of like a little distrustful of Obi-Wan because he's in this position that Anakin wants to be personally.
And it's also to note for myself, they can't have any emotional ties, like
they're not supposed to. Yeah.
And he's doing what did he think?
And that's like a theme throughout this, at least for Obi-Wan, a theme throughout this book is that when he realizes that he's upset or sad about something, he recognizes he has the attachment and he tries to just like let it go. Like that's kind of a thing.
That Obi-Wan does?
Yeah, throughout the book.
Like he feels something, but then he lets it go.
Like throughout the book, there are certain moments when like Obi-Wan is like about Anakin, or like if he like when there's a time when he thinks Anakin is dead and not like he doesn't know that Anakin had become Vader yet, and he thinks Anakin maybe didn't survive, and he like has to recognize like I'm sad because Anakin's gone, but like I have to like let that go. Like I can't let that attachment like rule what I'm gonna do. Just a little side bit I think is interesting. Anakin talks about how like the Jedi or he thinks about how the Jedi Temple is designed to actually focus the Force. So the reason it has the shape it does with like those like pillars and stuff, the shape is actually supposed to help focus the Force even better. So anyone who's inside it feels it more strongly, which is a little, I think, interesting detail. This is the second thing I remember from this book after 20 years ago that I think is really a good addition to this story. Why it's so important for Anakin to be a master, why he wants to be a master on the council. It's because when he starts having the nightmares that Padme dies in childbirth, he seeks out the Jedi holocrons on information on dreams and visions. Because he wants to learn anything he can on how to prevent it from happening. Those records are locked, and only those with the rank of master can access them. So when it kind of adds a whole new layer to that scene, when Anakin is on front of the council and Mace Windu tells him, "You'll be on this council, but we do not grant you the rank of master." And Anakin's like, "What?" Like, this kind of brings a whole new layer to that scene, because Anakin he's like quickly joyed because he's like, I can finally access those records. I can like learn more and I can save my wife. And then Mace is immediately like, but we're not going to give you that rank. And it brings it all like kind of crashing down on him. So I like this extra little thing he kind of added in. I think it brings more context to all of that scene. So remember, he has such a fear of death that he cannot control death. And because that dragon in him is always whispering to him, everything dies. So that's what he's terrified of. The book has the deleted scenes that I like from this movie, and I actually always watch those scenes separate, where Padme helps actually like form the Rebel Alliance. She like gets some of the senators that will later start it, and like they start to discuss like what they need to start doing to prepare if Palpatine takes power. There are deleted scenes of these.
Yeah.
They're in the book, and that's cool. And I also like, because I can kind of see roughly where they probably would have been in the movie. But I always watch those scenes anyways, because I think they're just so important to what happens later on. It's also the first time we see Mon Mothma with the new actress who's gone on to now play her in Andor and Rogue One and Ahsoka. So this was like where she first got the role, and it was a deleted scene that was taken out of the movie. But they still brought her back years later, which I think is cool. If you remember in the movie, there's that scene where Obi-Wan has to tell Anakin, like, hey, we want you to spy on Palpatine for us. There's a scene in the book where it kind of goes more into it, where the Jedi Council is telling Obi-Wan to like give Anakin this assignment. Obi-Wan takes this super hard, because he tells the Jedi, he's like, look, Anakin, he's loyal to people, not ideas. If you make me do this, he may never trust us again. Yeah.
That's like that for anything, though. Like, the Jedi are just being purposely deceptive, which sucks.
And this super devastates Obi-Wan, because he's like, I'm gonna like lose like a friend just by asking him to do this.
And he's put in the middle. Like, why don't they just do it?
They're hoping it'll come better from him, but obviously it's like, yeah, that's like,
it's not better.
And it's kind of shitty to Obi-Wan to make him do that too.
Yeah.
There's a scene in the movie, I don't know if you remember, where Anakin is like sitting down, and then he's like, Obi-Wan was here earlier, and Padme was like, yeah, he came by, he was like concerned for us. We never see like what that encounter was, but it's in the book. So you get to see that scene where Obi-Wan does go over to Padme's apartment and kind of confronts her. He basically tells Padme, I know Anakin like loves you, and I know you love him. Like you're not being subtle at all. Like, we can tell. Just keep in mind, he's like, Anakin needs discipline, and I think he needs the discipline of the Jedi. But also the prophecy of the Chosen One, it doesn't say the Chosen One has to be a Jedi. So be careful and think things through. Basically, he's telling Padme, I think Anakin should stay a Jedi, but if you two decide to go off and leave and do your own thing, just look out for each other. Just be there for each other. It doesn't necessarily mean that the prophecy won't happen. So he's basically admitting to Padme, I know everything that's going on. Anakin's very confused right now. It's a trying time. Just look out for each other. Be there for each other. But just like know that, I know what's going on, and I think Anakin would be better off staying as a Jedi. So the reveal scene where Palpatine reveals himself to Anakin that he is the Sith Lord. It goes on a little bit longer in the book than it does in the movie. And it's much more like manipulative and convincing. Palpatine is basically telling Anakin, what do you want? I'll give you anything. Anything you want, name it, like right now. And it's yours. Oh, no. And Anakin's like joking. He's like, fine, like I want like this apartment over there. And Palpatine's like, just that, or do you want the whole building? And then Anakin's like, all right, fine, I'll take Corellia. And he's like, you want just the planet or the whole system? And Anakin's like, you're joking. Like, no. And Palpatine's like, no. He's like, you want it, I will give it to you. Anything you want, you just need to decide what is it that you want. And Palpatine's telling him, like, look, I've kept all of your secrets. Like, I never told anyone about the sand people you killed. I never told anyone that you killed Count Dooku, like when he was decapitated. Like, I've trusted you. I've been there for you. I will be there for you, whatever you need. And Anakin's vision is like blurring. Like, he can't see anything around him. All he sees is Palpatine. So you get the sense that Palpatine is also doing something to him in the Force to just like make him confused and also just looking at him. And of course, all Anakin is thinking is that he wants to save Padme, and he knows that Palpatine was that story he was telling him earlier about Darth Plagueis, the famous scene, was his master who could learn to master death. So that's what Anakin wants. And Palpatine's just getting him to say, what is it that you want? Because I will give it to you. Yeah,
and Palpatine gives me the vibe of like those people that are like, I do this for you, you do this for me. Like, there's something icky about those kind of personalities amongst a person in general that already makes me feel like, yeah, you can tell he's no good. Mm-hmm. Or you don't even want him on your side. He'll like say, I did this for you, therefore, you have to do whatever I say though to get what you want. Like, that's
he's not even saying that yet. He's just saying, I will give you anything you want. He's not even adding a catch. Like,
he's gonna add a catch. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, they don't just give you things just because you want it.
Yeah, it's a deal with the devil.
Exactly.
The famous scene with Obi-Wan and General Grievous when they meet, and General Grievous is like, you fool, I was trained in your Jedi arts by Count Dooku, and he ignites his sabers. Obi-Wan has a nice little retort, which isn't in the movie, where he goes, funny, I trained the man who killed Count Dooku.
Yeah.
And it's funny, literally after I read this, I saw a meme on Reddit where someone kind of made this situation where he's like, well, I trained this man who killed, like, but as a joke, like not realizing that this was actually in the book, which is kind of funny.
Maybe they read the book, or maybe it is.
It was a little different. Yeah, it was a little different, but it's possible they may have read it. But it's just funny because it works.
It's true.
Palpatine, I guess, has this whole argument that I thought was kind of interesting. Also, trying to explain to Anakin why he is not like evil.
An argument with Anakin.
Yeah.
Okay. Why he's not evil? Got it. So what reason? What reason could that be?
Well, like, okay, so he says, Anakin's like telling him, he's like, I'm not on your side. Like, I'm not evil. And Palpatine goes, who said anything about evil? I am bringing peace to the galaxy. Is that evil? I'm offering you the power to save Padme. Is that evil? Have I attacked you, drugged you? Are you being tortured? My boy, I am asking you to do the right thing. Turn your back on treason, all of those who would harm the Republic. I'm asking you to do exactly what you have sworn to do. Bring peace and justice to the galaxy and save Padme, of course. Haven't you sworn to protect her too? So like, this is like I said, it's much more interesting and they talk way more than they do in the movie. In the movie, Anakin's just like, I shouldn't have done that or whatever. And then he just does it. But like in the book, the author really expands it. Like they talk back and forth about what's going on. I'm not saying it's still not extreme what Anakin does, but it's more believable like here than I think it is shown in the movie. The scene where Anakin tells Mace Windu about Palpatine and that Palpatine's the Sith they've been looking for, it's also much more intense because in the movie he's just like, I think he's the Sith Lord we're looking for. He knows the Force. But in the book, he's like exhausted. He's afraid to talk. He's just sitting there. He's like wild. He's desperate. He has all this fear just plainly showing on him. It's a much more visceral reaction that you would expect him to have than in the movie, which is just downplayed so much more.
To be fair, too, between novelization and, like movies, they have to like time it a lot better. They have to get the beats just right. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's a lot of things we could think the movie could do, but then again, it's like you can do it still in the book. It's just the beats have to sit right to be enjoyable for all,
I guess, but I still think like it's a little the reactions and motivations in Revenge of the Sith are a little flimsy.
Plus,
I'm in the minority. Revenge of the Sith is actually my least favorite prequel, where most people, it's their favorite. Most people who don't even like the prequels like Revenge of the Sith. But like,
yeah,
I find it a little flimsy. But that's just me. That's okay. This scene is really kind of cool and creepy. So when Mace Windu confronts Palpatine with the other Jedi, Palpatine starts recording audio of it. And he's basically, when Palpatine pulls out his lightsaber and he starts like killing the other Jedi, the whole time he's doing it, he's like screaming like, no, help me, what are you doing? Like all this stuff, so the audio picks it up. Because he then later plays that back for the Senate to show when the Jedi attacked him. Yes. So he's manipulating the situation, but he's saying these things as he's the one like cutting off their heads and all this kind of stuff. And then when he's done and it's just like Mace left, he like destroys the audio. Well, before he destroys the audio device, he looks at Mace Windu and he goes, and then he winks at him and he destroys the audio. It's like really creepy, but it's like a cool little scene in addition. This is another little thing I just always remembered about this book, that when Anakin is there and Mace is about to kill Palpatine, and Anakin's, when Anakin goes like, I need him, before he like cuts off Mace's hand, we actually hear like from Mace's point of view what he's thinking. And when Anakin says, I need him, like Mace's like Windu's like last thought is like, why? And that's like the last thing he thinks before Anakin cuts off his hand and Palpatine like finishes him off. And every time I watch the movie, I just think that when Anakin says that line, I just look at Mace and I'm just like, in my head, I'm like imagining him thinking like, why? And it's kind of like how much they really missed like everything that was going on with Anakin. Mm-hmm. And like I've been saying, it doesn't just go so simple. Anakin doesn't just give in to Palpatine like in the movie where he's like, I will do anything you ask and I swear myself to you. In the book, Anakin actually tells Palpatine, I can't join you. I only came here to save your life. Like, I did not come here to join you or become your apprentice. And Palpatine basically tells him, like, after all of this, you really think it's that simple? You need to choose. It's either me or them. It's me or Padme. Because I'm the one that has that power to save her. And that's kind of the conversation that kind of really ends up doing it and, like, turning him. The Order 66 scene, I don't know if you remember when Obi-Wan is on Utapau and he's riding that, that big fluffy dragon thing. Its name is Boga. We only know that in the book. And he meets with Commander Cody, and Cody's like, oh, by the way, sir, I think you'll need this. And he hands Obi-Wan back his lightsaber because he had lost it earlier.
Yeah, I remember Cody.
Cody. And then Obi-Wan goes charging off. That's when Cody gets the Order 66 scene and he like shoots at Obi-Wan, like riding the dragon or whatever. I think it's a little funny that when he gets that Order 66 scene, Cody thinks to himself, you couldn't have given that to me before I gave him back the bloody lightsaber, because it happens like right after, which I think is funny. And also, the book says that Obi-Wan picked Boga, this creature to ride, because he could sense that Boga was essentially a little like force sensitive and they had a connection. Oh. And it's kind of revealed that Boga is able to sense what's about to happen before it happens, and the dragon actually intentionally covers Obi-Wan and sacrifices itself to save him when he gets shot.
Oh no, that would have. Oh.
And Obi-Wan kind of has this heart-wrenching scene where he's like, no one would do that for me unless we were friends, and I didn't even like realize she must have thought I was a friend, and I am so sorry. Like, goodbye, my friend. He's like thinking to himself, like when they're like floating in the water. We see what a mind trick looks like in another scene from the person who's getting tricked. Like when Bail Organa is sneaking Obi-Wan and Yoda back into the Jedi Temple when they're going back to Coruscant after all this stuff has happened. The Senate guard is like excited because he sees them and he's like, all right, just leave the Jedi with me. We'll go turn them in. And then Obi-Wan's like, I think you should just let us go. And then the Senate guard thinks to himself, wow, this is such a reasonable guy, I think I will just let him go. And then like they obviously go a different direction and the guard notices and he's like, wow, even though like he's going a different way, like he's such an agreeable guy. I don't want to appear unagreeable. I'm not going to say anything. Like that's like how the mind trick works, at least how the author interprets it, which I think is kind of funny. All right, this is the last thing I remembered from this book because of how weird it is. In the movie, there's a scene where Obi-Wan and Anakin, I keep saying Anakin, when Obi-Wan and Yoda are attacking clone troopers at the Jedi Temple before they go into like infiltrate and like see the records of what happened and stuff. In the original script, the clones were dressed as Jedi. They were pretending to be Jedi to lure any Jedi to come out to them before shooting them. This is actually still in the Lego Star Wars video game. When you fight in that level, they're like Jedi dressed clones. And it's in the book too. They changed that later, and you can actually see the original deleted scene. It's just like a CG swap or whatever. How Obi-Wan approaches them is weird. He approaches the clones pretending to be like a hunchback, like kind of like hillbilly, and he's like, "I've got this Jedi baby with me." And then they're like, "What?" And then they look at him and they're like, "Oh, that's the ugliest baby I've ever seen. It's all wrinkly." And they're like, "How do you know that's a Jedi baby?" And then it's Yoda pretending to be the baby, and Yoda's like, "Because of my lightsaber." And then like they ignite it and they kill the It's such a weird little scene that he has in the book, but I always remember that. Yeah, Obi-Wan pretending that Yoda's like a Jedi baby that they're holding. Yeah, but not as cute. Another interesting thing, when Anakin is now Darth Vader and he's killing all the separatists on Mustafar, he's giving like all these like one-liners as he's killing them, which also is a little out of place, I think, and kind of weird. Like one of the separatists is like, "We were promised we would be rewarded handsomely," and then Anakin's like, "Don't you think I'm handsome?" and then like cuts his head off. Like he has like weird little lines like that, which I just think is. Or like another one is like, "We were told we would be left in peace," and then Anakin's like, "Yeah, left in pieces," and then like he cuts them, like starts cutting him in half and stuff. It's
basically a cartoon.
Yeah, it's a little weird. We get a perspective at one point that the clones think the Jedi Temple is haunted after they've attacked it, because they keep seeing shadows and things around the corners and people that aren't there. Clones are disappearing, and then they'll find like 5 bodies in a closet later and stuff, even though they're searching all the rooms. So the clones almost get this stigma about the Jedi Temple that it's like now after all the Jedi have killed and stuff, it's like haunted. During the duel with Anakin and Obi-Wan, when they're actually fighting each other, there's a nice little scene I like that I think was cool, where they use the Force to activate the blasters on the dead like separatists on the ground or battle droids. And then there's a scene where Obi-Wan and Anakin are deflecting the bolt back and forth towards each other just constantly until it's going so fast you can't even see anything. There's like another part during the fight where Obi-Wan uses the Force to corrupt Anakin's mechanical hand and make him drop his lightsaber, and like little things like that, which aren't seen in the movie, but I think would have been cool if we did see them. And I'm sure this is just the author's interpretation of how parts of the fight could have gone, because again, he doesn't really describe the actions too much of what's going on in the fight. The famous high ground quote isn't in here. "I have the high ground." It happens much quicker. Like Obi-Wan zooms past Anakin, he jumps onto the cliff, and Anakin immediately tries to jump to follow him, and before Obi-Wan's even turned around, he swings up and cuts Anakin in half. So it's much quicker, and yeah, unfortunately there's no "I have the high ground" quote or whatever.
We didn't know how big that one little sentence was going to be.
Not at the time. The last just little thing that I thought was interesting is that I don't know if you remember in the movie, Bail Organa, after he gets hold of C-3PO and R2-D2, he says, mind wipe the protocol droid, like erase C-3PO's memory. And obviously they have to do that because C-3PO has no memory in the original films. Like he doesn't like claim to remember. But he doesn't erase R2-D2's memory. And so R2-D2 technically remembers everything. And they kind of give the reason why. It's because when C-3PO is with them, C-3PO is going to be given to Leia, like child Leia or whatever, as her servant. And then C-3PO is literally saying out loud, "I can't wait to tell her all about her parents and all this stuff." And that's when Bail Organa is like, erase his memory. So it was his big mouth that made him do it.
And R2-D2, he doesn't say a lot.
But that's just pretty much it. That's all the things that stood out to me. Again, this was such a good read, and I think it's among the best like written Star Wars books, which really surprised me because it's a novelization, and I don't tend to hold them in high regard. But I know also this is well loved in the community, so it is a bit of an exception. I did want to talk about it because the anniversary is coming up, and I do plan on seeing it in theaters when it gets re-released in like April 25th. If not that day, the week of. So I'll get to do what my child self never got to do and actually see the movie in theaters, which will be nice. It's highly recommended. I think they're actually reprinting it for the anniversary too. So
ooh, you should get it.
I'm good with my original copy. I don't need another copy of the book.
Oh,
but for anyone else, you can get it easily. But I don't know. What do you think? Just what I've told you about this novelization of this movie.
So I have been in a Star Wars mood. Season of the Force just started at Disneyland, and we just went within like the first few days it started, and just getting the feels of like all of the culture that Star Wars has built for our childhood. It's kind of amazing to like hear like just even like little changes in the story that now you can have another like perspective of like how the story could have went, you know? And I can see like why you like that a lot better than the movies. Like I grew up with the movies. I didn't even know about the books, but I love seeing it from your eyes, and thank you for sharing that with me.
I think anyone who reads this will have a little. Well, it'll make the movie better. There'll be little things that you'll remember from this as you're watching it. So, well, that's it. I hope everyone enjoys. I hope everyone plans on re-seeing it in theaters. I think it'll be a good event, and I hope everyone has fun. And well, that's about it. This was just a quick and simple episode. So thank you very much for joining us, and may the Force be with you.
Happy season of the Force.
Happy season of the Force. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Rogue Reader podcast. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, subscribe for more content, and share it to any other Star Wars fans you think might also enjoy this content. Thank you very much.